Your body does not want to burn muscle. That's why you need to fast the right way.
Welcome to the Kingdom Fasting Podcast. I'm Bree. I'm a registered nurse.
I'm Dr. Sam. I'm a nurse anesthesiologist.
And we are here talking about fasting. We're starting with the basics today. And today's basic is, what is fasting? What is it not? And why should it matter to me?
So let's start with what it's not. It's not starvation. So I'm going to give you the definition of starvation first. And then you're going to see as we go through and explain what fasting is, it doesn't fit that definition. So the medical definition for starvation is starvation occurs when the body no longer has any stored energy and it begins to use essential tissues such as organs for an energy source. So that's the key. When you run out of stored energy and it has to use essential tissues for an energy source. And starvation is a chronic nutritional insufficiency. And that chronic nutritional insufficiency is what results in death. And your body doesn't reach starvation mode. Everybody's like, you're going to get starvation mode if you stop eating for 38 seconds. That's not true. Your body doesn't go into starvation until you get about 4% body fat. And most of us will never see that. So not something to worry about. Elite athletes aren't in 4% body fat. Now we know that starvation is when you have run out of stored energy. Well, what's stored energy? Stored energy is fat. And so now we're going to look at what is fasting and how is that different.
So there's several different definitions. The biblical definition for fasting, actually going back to the Hebrew, is to abstain from food and to fast. And it's mentioned multiple times in the Bible. It was sort of a staple part of people's lives, especially when they were in distress. They fasted and prayed and humbled themselves before God. And when I went back into the Webster's dictionary from 1884, there was fasting listed in that dictionary. And it says that fasting is abstaining from food or the act of abstaining from food, which I think is interesting because fasting is doing something, it's not eating. Isn't that interesting? So you're not doing something is doing something. So then you go to a modern day Webster's dictionary and fasting is not in there. Only fast. And then the different breakdowns of that as like verbs, adverbs, like when you're adding fasted, fasting, different things like that. And so fast as a verb means to go without eating or to eat in small amounts or only certain foods. So it has kind of evolved nowadays to have that sort of meaning, which can mean not just without eating, but also certain foods in small amounts. And then as a noun, the act of fasting or a time of fasting, which is basically what we're talking about, a time of abstaining from food, which is what fasting is, I would say. It's interesting because the root word of fasting, fast, has several meanings that I feel like are importantly applied towards fasting. It's very interesting because fast can mean in a fixed manner, like stuck fast or to hold fast. And so as you're fasting and abstaining from food, what are you doing instead? You're holding fast to God. So I think that's just like super interesting. And then it can also mean in a complete manner, which is soundly, deeply fast asleep. You know, we say that fast asleep, like it's very deeply. And when you're fasting, there is something deep going on in your spirit and your soul, as well as the physical aspect of what's going on in your body. You're putting your digestive system to sleep, basically, and resting that while the rest of your body is doing other important processes that now it has time for. Where it didn't before because it was focused on digesting food. So just interesting. And then the third one is fast can also mean with great speed, which is generally what people think of. So you could use that word as a fast recovery. So as we get into the physical benefits of fasting, that also applies. So I love that the word fast is the root word for fasting. So that is all of the dictionary type stuff. I'm a very wordy person. I like definitions. So what is the actual medical definition of fasting? Definition.
And I thought it was really interesting when he said like hold fast, like you're holding fast from like food and your guts are not doing anything. So they're staying steady and they're healing. Mm-hmm. And then you're also getting a fast recovery, like the fastest recovery. Mm-hmm. So the medical definition of fasting is voluntary and not starvation. Well, that's good.
Yep.
But rather than the body's burning of stored energy, fat, therapeutic fasts are stopped long before starvation happens. Fasting is also distinctive from caloric restriction, which is a daily caloric intake is reduced chronically by 24%, but meal frequency is maintained. So you actually change your meal frequency in fasting. So we talked about fasting being fast. So what is it the fastest of? Well, it's the fastest to ketosis. We've all heard about ketosis. Ketosis is your body using fat as energy. Your body will use two energy sources. It will use sugar or it will use fat. And when you use sugar, that's the easiest source for it to get to. And when you deplete sugar, then your body does what's called a metabolic switch. The metabolic switching is fasting. That's actually another technical term for fasting. It's metabolic switching. Yeah. You switch from sugar energy to stored energy. So fat is stored energy. So your body will either burn one or the other. Your body does not want to burn muscle. That's why you need to fast the right way. When they compare caloric restriction and fasting, they sometimes say, well, caloric restriction and fasting have similar weight loss results. And they can over the short term. But the health benefits are vastly exceeded in fasting as they are to caloric restriction. And they're longer lasting. And they protect your muscle. And they help your metabolism. And they help a bunch of other things. And they're neurogenically beneficial. And so next time, we're going to talk about why should it matter. We're going to talk about fasting in your physical health.
There you have it. What is the difference between fasting and starvation?
The fasting is stored energy, and starvation only happens when you run out of stored energy.
Exactly.
And fasting is voluntary.
So now you know that your body is not going to just go into starvation mode the minute that you stop eating.
Yep.
It is actually safe for you to pause from eating from time to time, and that's actually the way that God created you to live. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, send, and share this with your friends, especially if you want them to know the truth about fasting and starvation.